En dan wordt hier, moeten we terugvangen, ethanol.
You know, smokers really need to light up their cigarette, you know, in order to get the feeling that they're looking for. And we don't lit a fire, we just put the product in the oven. You are not allowed to take a sip because you will be dancing on the tables.
There were a lot of patients from England, also from Germany, from Belgium, Italy. It is illegal in their countries. So we only suspend the cannabis oil or cannabis flowers to a patient if they not reacting on the available medication. So it is the last step of the line, and then for like most of the patients, it can really help them because there's nothing left.
Und alle haben sich gewundert, wenn sie hörten, ich war 4 Tage in Amsterdam. Science 1985. Ein Museum von Hanf oder was? Oder Marihuana oder wie? Das brauchen Sie nicht. Okay, also mein Name ist Rosita Ort-Stegmann. Tilidin beherrscht mein Leben als Schmerzmittel. Ich bin seit knapp 20 Jahren Schmerzpatient. Nach 5 schweren Rücken-OPs im Jahre 2019 wurde ich am rechten Knie operiert. Die Nervenleitungen am Knie wurden getestet und festgestellt, dass 3 Nerven beschädigt sind.
Ja, hoe doen we dat dan met mevrouw Groot? We moeten haar bellen en dan eerst moet ik even alles aanstaan kijken of zo.
Het kostet 94 €. Oh.
Heel langzaam.
We know that pain is of course hindering or is really difficult for patients to live with it. It affects their sleep, it affects their working. So pain is a really important topic to study and to find adequate treatment. My name is Monique van Velzen. I work as an assistant professor at the Leiden University Medical Center. I work at the Department of Anesthesiology, where we study pain and pain-related symptoms. If we look at the Netherlands, we know that 1 in 5 adults suffer from chronic pain. So this is 20% of the adult population.
Das Erstaunliche war, dass Tilidin an diesen Schmerzen im Bein und am Fuß nichts änderte. Das war deprimierend für mich. Ich war sogar manchmal so kurz vor der Verzweiflung.
So in my last 30 or 60 days of using, it was get up, get high, go to work. Around 10 o'clock, make an excuse that I left something in my car, I've got to go fetch it, get high in the car, come back to work. Lunchtime, go out, get high, come back to work. And then when work ended, I couldn't even wait to get home to get high. I would be getting high in the car on the way home. And then at home, I was smoking by myself, basically bowl after bowl after bowl, and then passing out. And the next day, repeat. I grew up, my dad was an alcoholic, so I grew up kind of with a distaste for alcohol. And I remember watching other girls drink and get sick, and I just didn't understand why that was appealing. I remember not really being invited to parties because I didn't drink, feeling different than a lot of other people. I think my image about cannabis at the time was that it was fairly harmless. Didn't see it as addictive. Let's get happy and all be one. And you know, I loved Bob Marley and the message of emancipate yourself from mental slavery. It was a way that I could kind of feel socially accepted, where I might have felt like awkward and out of place and like I didn't belong.
I think it's just for the last 10 years that we recognize the real problem with cannabis addiction, or that we recognize the existence of cannabis addiction. 1 in 10 people that have ever used cannabis may develop an addiction later in their life.
I was visiting my cousin for Thanksgiving holiday, and she's a few years older than I am, so I really looked up to her. I was only 14, feeling really cool because I borrowed some of her clothes, and you know, I'm just like newly a teenager hanging out with older teenagers, and I felt pretty special to be doing that. You know, asked if I wanted to try it, and well, it worked for me the first time, and I only took like 1 hit, but I just remember feeling like very calm and very like in a cocoon almost, and I remember not really like feeling like a lot of cares dropping away, like I didn't care what happened. And I basically smoked every day for 11 years.
So one thing that's important and maybe interesting also for you to know is that we, all of us, regardless of the fact of we have ever used cannabis in our life, we do have an endocannabinoid system inside us.
So we all have cannabis in our brain. So the brain consists of millions of neurons, brain cells, and they communicate with each other and they use chemical substances for that called neurotransmitters. And well, basically we have some cannabis-like neurotransmitters in our brain and in our body, and they have a very important function. But what is special about these cannabinoid substances is that, and how shall I explain that? Well, so this is brain cell A and B, and they communicate with each other through these chemical substances, through neurotransmitters, and the neurotransmitters, they are released from neuron A and they act on neuron B, so they go this way. So let's say serotonin and dopamine, they travel from A to B. But what the cannabinoid substances in our brain do is they travel from B to A, so the other way around, and thereby they control, they regulate the release, the function of other neurotransmitters. To wrap up, so there's the endogenous cannabinoid system, a very important neurotransmitter system in the brain, involved in many brain functions. And when you use cannabis, you disrupt, you interfere with the normal functioning of that system, and that may have an effect on the functions that the system is involved in, like memory, reward processing, mood, cognition, things like that.
As long as I can remember, I have done stuff obsessively. I would go fishing and there would be lightning, and all the kids from my neighborhood would go home because they were like, "Wow, lightning and raining," and I would sit there on my own trying to catch that fish. So the first time I smoked weed was, I think I was like 14 or something, before we had this school party. A friend of mine bought some. I didn't really ask questions. I was like, okay, cool, let's do this. And the funny thing was we were behind the church. People came out and we were like pretending not to have done stuff. The first time getting high was this very glorious, sort of peaceful moment, and also very, yeah, it was overwhelming and I just felt great. I made this story for myself that I was doing okay, and if I wanted to stop, I just stopped. But this is just a phase of my life where by then I had a house on my own when I was 19. Yeah, and it looked terrible. It was a garbage disposal area. It was just, yeah. Then like if you use the word junkie, that was really appropriate back then. I always used a lot. Like if I felt down, I was trying to hide stuff and trying to cope with life. But if I felt really up, I wanted to celebrate. Started to get ideas of people. They're probably watching me. The street probably sees how sad and lonely I am.
Wanneer je het moment bereikt dat je denkt van dit gaat zo niet meer, ik ben kapot, help me alsjeblieft. Dat dat het moment is dat je besluit om een andere manier van leven aan te nemen.
You don't know or you don't have any idea about being addicted until the first time you consciously try to stop. So I just tried for like a week. And I couldn't last for half a day or something. It just didn't. And I would be in bed and I would be maybe 12 in the evening and I would be sort of lying there and like 10 minutes before I knew the coffee shop would close, I would put on my clothes and I would run there like as hard as I could. And that was the first time that I thought, oh shit, maybe there's something wrong with me. But then I was like, it's only today. And
there's quite some evidence that in different groups of psychiatry patients, for example with autism spectrum disorder or with psychotic disorders, that people have abnormalities in their endogenous cannabinoid system. So that's the main idea, that when there's some abnormalities in the functioning of that system, that with cannabis you can normalize the abnormalities.
What I'm doing is prescribing a medication that is off-label, right? This is not something that you should do for everyone. So that's what I do. So first I check really carefully if everything that had to be done is already done. And if that's the case, then I move and I check if the use of cannabis or interventions might be helpful for certain symptoms. And then I'm also really critic. Yeah, I think of a patient of mine who I'm prescribing medical cannabis right now. He has a really nice story. I mean, I think it's a pretty crazy story.
To start the introduction, my name is Klaus. I'm 27 years old. I studied IT, computer sciences. The diagnosis that I've been given is autism spectrum disorder. In my case, it would be like sensory overload to like light and auditorial stimulations. But it's not like too bad, and I can normally walk on the street and have conversations with people. But like if it's sustained and for a longer period of time and excessive, then it would be too much. So then you'd have to take a break or just go to a quiet place at that point in time. I got my diagnosis last year when I was 26 years old, so yeah, it is kind of late. But when I started working full time and actually had like a workload on me, responsibilities, and with my father, his health deteriorating, there was more pressure on you, so to say. So at that point, the symptoms became more clear. Yeah, I experienced those burnout symptoms. You want to do things, but you can't. I mean, your body can't, but your mind says, do it.
It's really difficult to say that the use of cannabis would help all people having a certain disorder. That's also probably not true. So even within those with autism, or even within those with psychosis or with anxiety disorders or depression or whatever, I don't think cannabis will help all of them. But maybe some people experiencing certain symptoms may benefit from cannabis. Yeah.
Countless of other therapies giving no effect, or doctors suggesting a total different course of action, like completely dismantling this course of action and then going there without knowing beforehand whether it will work or not. So, and having been through that like a couple of times, it was just for me at a point where I said, nah, I think I know what's best for me. I started with cannabis when I was about 13 years old, quite early, I know. Basically, just like, yeah, smoke some and enjoy. It filtered out the auditory and the light stimulation, which I didn't know at the time, I wasn't even aware of. Well, first I went to my, yeah, like the standard doctor you go to when you're sick, ill, have a flu, whatever, when you're in the Netherlands. We found that the Utrecht hospital, that there was a specialist in there as well, and well, he contacted him for me. Then he recommended him for me, so I could go there, talk to him, and that's how Albert and I met. We had an intake. I explained the situation.
Yeah, at this moment, this is the only one that I'm doing. So I'm not prescribing cannabis to anyone else. Just one person with autism right now.
Medical cannabis, what is that exactly?
Yeah, it's probably not different than any other medication.
No,
so I think that's really
the beauty of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we do. That's what we stand for in our pharmacy. Is
the doctor of the physician prescribes the medicine. It goes to the pharmacy. The pharmacy will control if the patient can use it in a safe way, and then we control if the patient also uses it in a safe way.
So the two most important components that are most frequently studied are THC and CBD.
Everyone knows THC, that's the bad guy. So all the negative effects are actually related to or associated to the THC, right? And that includes psychosis, but also addiction, cognitive problems, whatever, anxiety.
We could demonstrate that these group of pain patients that we studied had most benefit from the varieties of medicinal cannabis that contain quite a lot of THC.
Ich ging zu diesem Osteopathen und als erstes, nachdem ich ihm meine Geschichte erzählt hatte, empfahl er mir Sativex, ein kleines Fläschchen mit 10 Milliliter Cannabis. Ich bin 80 Jahre alt und habe in meinem ganzen Leben noch nie Kontakt gehabt zu Cannabis. Dieses 10 Milliliter Fläschchen kostet 120 € und das ist viel Geld. So, das sind jetzt erstmal die Blätter. Und jetzt mache ich die Blüten ab. Ja? Die pflücke ich. Alles ganz ölig. Das sind meine Kekse. Ich habe bis jetzt nur 4 genommen, alle anderen habe ich eingefroren. Ich habe alles in meine kleine alte Kaffeemühle getan, habe es klein und fein gemahlen und ich habe Sternchen ausgestochen, weil ich gedacht habe, das ist so positiv. Wie viel von welchem Wirkstoff ist da eigentlich drin? Das weiß ich nicht.
Okay, right. So you can inhale it with this. It's a vaporizer. It is medically certified. I also have like a filling set for it. You have like little dosage capsules. You can measure out how much cannabis you want in on a scale, and you fill them up with that. It's a tool for it. If you take it in the doses that are prescribed, it's just like a filter, and not like you're like fully sedated like the whole day, right? I mean, it wouldn't be comfortable to work like that.
It takes a really long time to hit bottom as a cannabis addict or a marijuana addict because they say like, it's like slowly getting kicked to death in the head by a bunny rabbit. That's how long it takes. You know, everybody's trajectory is different. You know, mine took 11 years, and it was really the last 5 years where I tried to make various rules for myself. Okay, only on the weekend. Okay, only at night. But yeah, Thursday would become close enough to Friday, and Monday would become close enough to Sunday, and I would just end up breaking every single rule I made for myself to cut down. And when I say I can't stop, it means that I could stop physically using, but I won't stop obsessing over the next high, or how do I get it, or how do I make sure I'm around someone who has it. Just this obsessive thinking. There's a 2 or 3 month period where it takes a while to start having the capacity to feel naturally high again. I cried for 14 days straight the first time I stopped using. And yeah, by the time that I kind of decided, you know, I think I can't do this by myself. I've tried for 5 years. I've tried every single way I thought I could manage to control my using, and I haven't been able to. Yeah, I walked in for some help, and I admitted that I couldn't do it by myself.
It was always good. Like, I did not stop smoking weed because I did not like it. That's also this idea that you eventually stop because you don't like it. No, it was just drawing my life. But and the moment that I liked it became very short. I think after a couple of times of trying, I didn't know I was addicted. I just thought I was crazy. Yeah, okay, if I don't get off of this, I will not die from it, and I will do this for the next 60 years. That is like really black, dark situation. Yeah. I went to rehab twice. The first time, I really had no idea what I was doing there. But that was the first time that I connected with other people that had the same brain. So I was like, wow, you do the same stuff, you think the same way. So that on itself is a very healing thing. Like, oh, okay, I wouldn't say I'm not crazy, but I'm just as crazy as the other people. Like, okay, good.
Ik denk dat de meeste mensen wel een aantal terugvallen nodig hebben om te merken van oké, nee, dit werkt echt niet voor mij. Ik kan niet gebruiken. Terugval is meestal niet iets wat van de een op de andere moment gebeurt. Dat je denkt van oké, ik val nu op straat en er ligt ineens een joint voor me of zo.
Because I didn't have my therapist, because I didn't have this other person who had been helping me before, I did relapse. And finding work in a global pandemic turned out to be a lot harder. I didn't move to Amsterdam to be a stay-at-home mom, but that's kind of what I was until I could find work. Pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down. knowing what helped me before was what I knew could help me again, and it did. A big reason why I'm able to say I don't really crave marijuana today.
Yeah, and then within like 8 months, I lost almost everything that I had rebuilt. Yeah. I got distracted by feeling better. One of the things I say to the people that I try to help is that the bad thing about recovery is that you start to feel better. What else? Well, you find out that, oh, maybe I like myself. Maybe this life is pretty interesting. And then you're like, you're gone because you're just distracted. And yeah, I'm not sure if this is good for your camera, but there's this fuck it moment. I know all these consequences, fuck it. At that point, life is bad, I feel terrible, and the only way to feel some form of sereneness is by using. And the moment I lit my first joint, I knew this was gonna destroy everything. Come in. This is about depression, and the girl is basically at the sort of decision point of, do I want to continue life or do I, she is surrounded by light, which means that there's still hope and there's still, options. I think a lot of people that do a lot of marijuana will recognize that. Yeah. Now I have a store. So I've been sober now for nearly 9 years. If during these 9 years I would constantly be trying not to relapse, wow, that would be terrible, right?
The thing is, when you prescribe something, there are always risks. But the positive thing of prescribing is that you can manage and you can decrease the risks. That's the advantage and the huge difference compared to using cannabis because you want to experience the high or pleasure when using it.
And the other colleagues of him were impressed as well. Like, I hope it was maybe a stepping stone to some other information be more widely available. Yeah, I'm sorry. Let's head out. Yeah. All right.
Hallo. Mein früheres Ich lacht darüber eigentlich. Und zwar etwas befreit. Natürlich lachen manche und sagen, die Oma kifft. Sehr lustig, aber es ist für mich nicht immer lustig. Ich hätte Hilfen. Ich bin ja schließlich eine Oma. Meine Freundinnen lachen sich einen halben Ast, wenn ich sage, ich kiffe jetzt. Meine Kinder und Enkelkinder, glaube ich, haben Spaß an der kiffenden Oma.
Wann wirst du dann die anderen Pflanzen anbauen?
Und früher, also draußen. Denn, das glaube ich, das wissen Sie, dass ich damit verantwortungsvoll umgehe. Ich möchte nicht mehr darauf verzichten, dass ich eigenständig bleibe, selbstständig bleiben kann, autonom bleiben kann.
Gut, also, mach's gut. Ciao, ciao. Mach's gut.